Hey guys, PortraitRose here. So today's video is going to be about licenses and permits, and before we get started with all of that bull hockey, first of all, I'll have to apologize if there's stuff in the background because that's really my mom being my mom, and then, also, let's see, what else is there? I don't think there's anything else, actually. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I've also decided how many parts are going to be. There's going to be about 7, and it might end up going up to 8 if I decide to split this into more parts because the taxes takes a lot longer than I thought it would. Took a lot longer in the first time I tried to record this than I thought it would, considering this video, the first time I recorded it, was about 19 minutes long. Unfortunately, I did not record the audio, so I have to start all over again. My favorite thing to do. Anyway, so let's get started with our permits and licenses that we need for our business. Alrighty, so this is the checklist that I'm going to be using, but I've already taken notes, so I've isolated what will be needed for if you're going to be doing what I'm doing, which is setting up art commissions, and trying to legitimize that business that you have, or just being a sole proprietor in general. If you're not going to be doing anything that requires kitchen stuff or fire stuff, or you're gonna be in your own house rather than a separate building for your work. Anyway, so what you're gonna need are gonna be the general business license, which is just required to operate business just in general. So yeah, that's gonna be pertaining to your city or county, and then you're gonna also probably require a DBA. It depends on your county. But for me, I know my county actually requires it if you're going to be using a name other than the name that you were given at birth to do business. So I'm going to go ahead and file one of those just so I can avoid the $2,500 fine or the year in jail. So that seems like my best option. And then you're also going to need a federal and state tax identification number, an EIN, or, well, you're not going to need it, but if you want to go through that, then you can do that. As a sole proprietor, you can actually just use your social security, considering the fact that you and your business are one and the same. So you don't need one, but it helps because then you can keep your social security number private from suppliers and stuff like that, which would be really helpful because then they don't have one of your sole identifying number. Still weird to me how we all have assigned numbers at birth, but whatever. Anyway. And then next up, we have the sales tax permit, which is only needed if you're planning on selling goods. But if you're going to be selling commissions, you need it. Anything that you have that you're going to be selling, whether it be online or offline, you're going to require a sales tax permit. I'm not sure entirely where to find that. I don't believe it's available on my county website. It might be available on your county website if you look it up, but it's not available on mine, so I'm going to have to find that somewhere else. And then you're going to possibly need a zoning permit. This one depends heavily on your county, because even if you're working out of your home, it might still come into play. You're going to have to look that up by your county as well. And then when it comes to home occupation permit, this might also be required. It depends, once again, on your county and their requirements for businesses. But generally, it should be all right for you to operate your sole proprietorship out of your home because it's just you, and it would be kind of silly to require everybody to have their own office if they're just going to be working by themselves. But who knows? The government is strange sometimes, so we'll see if we need that. You might want to, as I said, you're going to want to look these up on your own county's website just to see what you actually will need, because a lot of these pertain to your location and not just in businesses in general. Except for the general business license, that's everybody. Everybody needs one of those. And then sales tax is also going to be needed as well. So those are the two main ones that you'll have to worry about, and then everything else is, I'm not going to say optional, because it's not optional, but it's sort of up in the air whether you need it or not, because it kind of depends on your location. Alrighty, and now we're going to move on to my tips and tricks for you guys. So let's start with number 1, which is actually number 8, but we're not going to get into that. Okay, so number 1, in order to set up a business yourself, you need to be at least 18 years old, because that's how old you have to be to legally sign documents and legal documents and contracts and such. Or you have to have somebody to sign on your behalf if you're not 18. but I'd recommend waiting until you're 18 because then you don't have to worry about something else coming up in the future. I'm not entirely certain what that would be. Possibly, technically not you owning the company that you own, or something like that, but you're going to have to be able to put full trust in the person that would be signing for you, and you're going to want to also, be able to sign all your documents yourself. And then, let's see, number 2. So number 2 is make sure that you have access to a printer, because a lot of these items you'll actually have to print out yourself, especially if you've managed to find them on your county website. Even if you'll be able to fill them out in a PDF format, you'll still have to print it out so you can go ahead and sign it, and so you can get it notarized as well. And then number 3, you'll want to sign all your documents in black ink to make them legally binding. This is just one of those things that doesn't have much of a reason behind it, other than maybe computers might be able to read it better than, say, blue ink or green ink or whatever ink you're using that's not black. But you'll want to do it mostly just because that's the way you do things. And then number 4 is to make sure to carefully read any of the documents that you get before you sign them, mostly just because it makes things a lot more, it makes you aware of what you need, and it makes you aware of what you're signing so that you don't just sign something without knowing what's going on, so you don't sign something wrong, etc., etc. And you'll want to read the instructions if they have them available as well for any of the documents that you might actually sign. And then number 5 would be some of these forms should be available online. Actually, most of these forms will be available online, but you'll want to see if you can get a hold of them. If you go into your county circuit court, you'll want to see if you can do that if you aren't able to find all of them online, so that you can go ahead and fill them all out and then toss them over to your notary before going into the circuit court. And that's and then there's number 6, which is look up your required forms by typing in something like forms required to start a business in, and then the county that you're located in. That's probably the easiest way to do it, and it'll probably come up with your county website, and it'll have tips for starting a business. So you'll want to do that so that you can get what is specifically required in your county. And then number 7 is all of the forms will need to be notarized, which is something that will be required for anything that you have your signature on that's going to be legal. So not your tax returns, thankfully, or your income tax or anything like that, but you'll need that for any of the business forms that you'll need to start your own business. And then my second tip that's related to that one is that your local bank may have a notary service, but you'll want to call ahead just to make certain. I know for a fact that mine does, but you'll want to call ahead just to make absolutely certain. And then also, if you're a member at that bank, they might be able to waive the notary fee, but you'll still want to bring some money along just in case they can't actually waive that notary fee. I'm not entirely certain how much that notary fee is, but it's probably more than a couple of bucks. So you'll want to make sure that you have at least something like $50 on you, just to make absolutely certain that you can pay at least some of it, if not all of it. And if they tell you that you need more money, then you can always withdraw something from your bank account while you're there, or anything like that, just to make sure that you have the money to pay the notary. Alrighty, and then I believe this is actually number 9. You should probably make copies of your business documents and keep a folder of them. This is not required, but I think that it would be helpful just so that you have a track record of your businesses, because you can always get them from your county circuit court, but you should have them straight off the bat, the notarized forms, just to make absolutely certain that just to make absolutely certain that you will be able to, just to make absolutely certain that you will be able to prove that your business is legal if somebody asks, or if a officer comes by and is like, hey, is your business legal? Then you can go ahead and prove that. And you might want to have a couple of paper clips as well, just so that you can keep your tax documents in there as well, your annual ones as well as your quarterly, because there's only one quarterly, but it still helps to have all of those in the same place just so you can find them easily if you need to go back and take a look at your tax returns or your income tax from the previous year. And then number 10, let's see. Number 10 is you will want to go to your county circuit court to file your required forms after you get them notarized. So make sure you get everything that you need notarized and then go to your county circuit court. And if they tell you need another form, then you're going to have to do that as well. You might be able to do it there and then, like, go back to your notary, or possibly use a notary that they have there, because I'm pretty certain that your county circuit court will have a notary. And you can also find your county circuit court by looking up your county and then circuit court on Google, and you should be able to find the one that's closest to you. And then number 11. So you'll want to get an EIN after going through all of the required forms, just because it asks you for your business name, and if your business is not legitimate yet, then you'll want to make absolutely certain that everything gets done. And you can actually go to the IRS website to request an EIN number, or to, like, apply for one online, which makes it a lot easier. The only issue is that it's available from 7 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday and not on weekends. So you'll have to make certain that you have some free time during the week in order to do that. But you can actually, it's a pretty simple form or application to fill out. So IRS EIN application, you just have to Google that, and it's the one down there. And then it gives you the hours of operation, and you can apply online, and you can go ahead and hit OK with that. And you can begin your application, and you're going to be probably a sole proprietorship. An LLC is a bit different, and a partnership is also a bit different. And then you can just go ahead and hit this one, because you're not going to hire somebody to do household work. Like, you're not going to, like, that's not what it's, like, a household employer is basically just, like, if you have somebody clean your house or something like that, it's not gonna, like housekeepers, maids, drivers, health aides, private nurses, caretakers, yard workers, and similar domestic workers. You're not gonna have one of those probably for a while if you do this, so yeah. And then you're gonna hit continue, make sure you read all of your stuff. Something important to note here, though, is that all businesses' income expenses are reported on the individual's federal income tax return. And we'll get into the taxes later on. I believe I'm actually going to be doing them in this video, because I'm speaking so fast that it's taking less time than my previous recording, so I'll go ahead and go through the taxes as well. Alrighty. And then you're gonna want to hit started a new business, unless you're, like, looking to do one of the following. And then you're gonna want to fill in this personal information, which I will not be able to do on here, mostly just because of the fact that it's gonna, that'll dox me pretty hard, mostly because they ask for your social security number, and I don't want to accidentally dox myself that badly. And you'll also want to choose I am the sole proprietor, because if you're a third party applying for an EIN on behalf of the sole proprietor, that's when you'll want to hit if you're doing this for somebody else, if they're under the age of 18. But generally, you'll want to hit the I am the sole proprietor if you're setting up the company yourself. And then everything else is addresses, details, and EIN confirmation. I believe it gets emailed to you afterwards, but I'm not entirely certain. You'll want to read the pages before this, just to make absolutely certain you know all the information. Alrighty. And then my next tip, number 7/12, has already been read. And then my 13th tip is that maybe you might want to trademark your business name, mostly just so that it's definitely yours. I believe trademarks also run out, but it'll require a lot more paperwork. And it's not required, so if you don't want to do that, then you don't have to. Just know that somebody else might be able to use your name, your business name, and trademark it, if they get a hold of it, if they want to, but it's not such a huge issue, especially when you're starting out. If you've just started out, you don't have to do that, and you can worry about that later. You don't have to trademark it immediately. Alrighty. And now, after that lovely, you could probably hear that was me turning the page of my notes, because I actually made notes for this particular video. I did a lot more research into it than I did with the last one. With your taxes, let's go ahead and take a look at those. So the website that you'll want to go to learn what tax forms you'll need at the end of the year / quarterly for that one form is the IRS official website, which is irs.gov, and the specific link you'll want to go to is irs.gov/business/small business, well, not slash, hyphens, business, small, hyphen, business, hyphen, self, hyphens, employed, / sole, hyphen, proprietorships. Yeah, and you want to make sure you get that business in there, because I didn't do that the first time when I was recording this video, and it took me to the wrong place. So you'll want to make sure that you have what you need, and that you know that you're going to this link. Okay, so your income tax, this is required for everybody. You're going to be able, this is your normal one, the 1040 is your normal tax return that you would do if you're an individual, and you're going to have to, and you're going to attach the Schedule C form 1040, profit or loss from business. You're going to attach this form to your individual income tax return at the end of the year. And also, I believe that this one also goes until about April 11th, depending on what date is going to be the next tax date. I believe it's the same every year, but individual tax return due date, I believe it's April 11th or April 15th. It's April 15th. I always think April 11th, and I'm always wrong. So it's April 15th, but I tend to think April 11th, which might be better because then you can get it in definitely on time, whereas you don't have to risk it going in late, which would cause a whole bunch of other issues. Anyway, for the self-employment tax, I don't believe you technically have to do this if you have another job like I do. Mostly just because of the fact that you're not entirely self-employed and that you have another employer, but you'll have to attach this one to your income tax, the Schedule C, to your income tax, just to be certain that they know you have a business, etc., etc. And then estimated tax will also be required. Also for income tax, filed with personal income tax and return if sole proprietorship, and can be filed separately with IRS if LLC has elected. Separately with IRS if the LLC has elected to, although they can also do more complicated tax returns than just this one because they are a weird mixture between the two. But since we're looking at specifically sole proprietorships, you don't necessarily need to file those separately. Actually, you can't file those separately if you're a sole proprietorship. You have to file them with your personal income tax form or return. And then your estimated tax, if you will owe more than $1,000 by the time tax season rolls around, then you'll have to do the estimated tax form. Odds are I won't, because I believe the last amount that I had, I didn't owe any. I actually got money back. But if you're if you do your taxes, like your individual taxes, and you see that it's going to be a pretty high amount and that you'll have to pay the government more taxes, then you'll probably want to go ahead and fill that out, just because your business will add on even more than that. And then after that, we have the social and Medicare and income withholding, which has a quarterly federal tax return as well as an employer's annual tax return. And you'll need both of these, even though they say employers, because you're employing yourself, technically, even if you're not going to be doing the self-employment tax return, you'll still need to do both of these. So this one's going to be done every quarter, and I don't know what the quarters are. Let's see, what sole proprietorship quarters. Taxes. Dates. Let's see. Okay. So your dates are April 15th, June 17th, September 16th, and January 15th for 2020 if you're a sole proprietorship. And then you'll have to do these every quarter, so roughly every 4 months, I believe, or every 3 months. And then your annual gets done at the end of the year, and technically that's all that you really need to do your taxes. Just remember that you have this weird quarterly one right here, and that one will have to be done relatively often. And then you don't need this one really because of the fact that you aren't going to be employing anyone. And then transmittal of wage and statements. I don't believe that you'll be needing this one either because you're once again not going to be giving anything to your employee. And then federal unemployment, only do this if you're unemployed. And odds are you're not going to be, you're not going to be unemployed if you already have a job and you're just setting up your own business. No thanks. Let's see. Provides funds for paying unemployment compensation to workers who have lost their jobs. Most employers, you probably won't need to do this unless you've lost your job. And you aren't doing, like, what's it called? And if you aren't doing a sole proprietorship. But this is probably mostly just if you actually have employees and you fired one of them or something like that. And then filing information returns for payments to non-employees and transactions with other persons. You might need this, depending on how much you're buying, but you might not need it depending on if you're, like, not buying anything really, like, in bulk and stuff like that. And then excise taxes, I believe, are not actually required to pretty much any extent because of the fact that we are not dealing with any of these random industries such as oil spill liability tax or sports wagering and stuff like that. We're just doing art, so don't need to worry about that. But yeah, so those are roughly the forms you'll need. Also, I'd like to point out that if you don't want to, like, file all of these licenses and permits, you can actually go through a website like LegalZoom or another website that allows you to do legal documents online. And it will be a lot easier. However, it will also be a lot more expensive. Like, I was looking at LegalZoom for a second, and it looked like it was going to be more than $100 just to file my DBA, which is a little bit insane. But at the same time, it's a lot easier. You won't actually have to go in. You won't have to actually talk to the circuit court or get anything notarized. It'll take care of all of that for you. But it's pretty expensive. Whereas you may definitely want to look into TurboTax for tax purposes, just because it makes things a lot easier. Like, I used TurboTax, the free filing, last year to do my taxes, and it was a lot easier than trying to figure out how to fill out my tax form when my dad wasn't helping me at all and had never actually filled out his own taxes. But we don't talk about that. So yeah, it'll cost money. That will cost like $119, I believe, for the downloadable version. I do believe I have a version I can use that my dad has. But I'll have to take a look into that at the end of the year / quarterly. It might be best to just buy my own, though, just so that I can, get it done. I think you can technically, like, take that out of your taxes as well, like, deduct that from your taxes, because don't forget about deductions. Those things are important. You'll want to have a good list of stuff that you can deduct. Like, if you're using Photoshop, you can probably deduct the monthly or yearly cost of the program. Which would be really helpful because that's a hella expensive program, even if you're just using the student version like I am. You'll still definitely want to deduct that from your taxes if you're able to. And then, let's see. Both of those services get expensive, as I said. So if you want to do things for much less cost, then you can always go to the notary yourself. You can file with the county circuit court if you want by yourself. It'll be a lot less expensive, but it will be much more of a pain in the butt, so it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to do and what you need to do. So yeah. Oh, and also, I probably should have mentioned this, but you probably wanted to take notes during this entire video, but thankfully, since this is available on YouTube at any time, you'll be able to go ahead and go through it again and take notes and make sure that you have what you need. Also, you can hire a lawyer to help you with this stuff, but that, once again, is pretty expensive, and if you haven't established yourself already as, like, as somebody who has a fair amount of money and is starting their sole proprietorship, as, like, an offshoot of what they're doing already, then you probably won't want to hire a lawyer, because that's, like, more expensive than either TurboTax or LegalZoom, and you, probably wouldn't want to hire an accountant for tax purposes if you're gonna, and you're not going to want to hire, like, an accountant for tax purposes unless you have, like, a lot more taxes than you will at the end of the year if you're a sole proprietor. But you can also hire an accountant just to make your life a lot easier if you really want to. But once again, the more easy it is for you, the more expensive it is for you. So you'll want to take that into consideration along with it. Anyway, so that was a list of the taxes forms you'll need, the licenses and permits you will need, and a couple of tips to help you get started with all of these forms and all that stuff. So thank you guys for watching. See you guys on the next one, and PortraitRose out. That was cringy, but you get the point.